Well, today I'm going to talk about why some, emphasis on some, people in the West support Russia in this war that's going on. And this video, just to be clear, is not a defense of anything Russia's been doing over there. This is an analysis on the deeper, real reasons that some of these people who support Russia, some of these Westerners is what I mean when I'm talking about this, that support Russia in this war. Some of the reasons they support Russia that they don't even realize, that are connected to bigger issues like depression and poverty. Now, at first it may seem strange that this war is even happening at all, that people support this war. Now, if you've been paying attention, you'll notice one of the things that these people usually have in common. Usually they're Tankies or kind of just generally anti-America, almost for the sense of just being anti-America without any real point to it. But that's not really the main issue. It isn't so much America that they actually hate, and I don't think they actually realize this themselves. You notice the way that they mock the way that companies fakely support queer rights and racial rights, and how they put like rainbow flags in their companies' ads and stuff. My main point here is that these people who are supporting Russia, it's more of a backlash to the fakeness of things in the West, how everything has started to feel fake. I can only really speak for the U.S., but I'm sure that if you're in other similar Western countries, you feel this too, how everything kind of feels fake these days. Now, what it really comes down to, it comes down to the way that the West lies versus the way Russia and, back in the day, the Soviet Union lied. So in the West, our lies are meant for you to believe them. You know, the way our politicians and corporate goons talk, you're supposed to believe them. And their lies are usually on the order of that everything is fine, that our products are better, that's pretty obvious how that one came about, that will solve climate change. And this is really funny too, because they make it out to be an individual problem, climate change. Oh, it's your personal carbon footprint you need to reduce. And notice how that hasn't fixed the problem. We've had 40 fucking years to fix the problem. It's not working for loneliness either. They're doing the same thing with loneliness. They're making it out to be an individual problem instead of a wider systemic problem. Notice, this isn't how we got rid of CFCs. You remember the things that were eating a hole in the ozone layer above Antarctica? We had to have a giant international protocol called the Montreal Protocol in order to get rid of CFCs. It didn't work by saying, oh, you just need to buy better refrigerants. That didn't fucking work. But in Russia and in the former Soviet Union, their lies are usually very obvious. Even a 5-year-old could figure out it's a lie. It doesn't mean they know what the truth is, but they just know that what the government's saying is a lie, and it's blatant. Just like the corruption. Everybody can see how corrupt Russia is, like way and above how much the U.S. is. You know, over there, they don't even pretend to be doing anything about climate change. They're just blatant about pumping more gas out of the ground and pumping more oil out of the ground. Look at Gazprom. They'll just keep pumping out of the ground until we're all dead. And over in Russia currently, the people in power openly don't give a shit about queer minorities. You know, at my current job, the one I have before the solar panels job I mentioned to somebody, I work with a lot of antiques, and I've seen some incredibly, horribly racist advertising from these antiques from the 1880s, these cards. They literally have soap ads where they're washing the black off of kids. And that's not even the worst one. I can't even talk about the worst ones. The point that I'm getting at here is that the people in charge of these companies are just as asshole-ish and just as greedy as before. Everybody knows that they don't give a shit about queer or racial rights. They're just pretending to. But so to some people it almost seems more honest when the corporations and the government just openly don't give a shit. And everybody knows that Putin's reasons for invading Ukraine, they obviously have nothing to do with why he's actually invading. A 5-year-old could point it out. Like, seriously, denazify Ukraine? It's blatantly obvious that Russia's economic outlook for regular people is not good. And there's no pretending that one can pull yourself up by bootstraps. By the way, did you know that the phrase pull yourself up by your bootstraps was once meant as a joke? And then some people were too stupid to get it as a joke, so they took it as a literal phrase to try to promote this individualistic to a fault outlook on things. Because think about it, it's literally impossible to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. They're attached to you. Oligarchs and military officials over in Russia just blatantly engage in corruption. Everybody knows about it. They don't even try to hide it. There's hardly ever any trials, and the people closest to Putin are the most corrupt ones. I mean, come on. It's blatantly obvious. I mean, we know there's probably corruption in the Western militaries, but you barely ever hear about it. It's usually related to something far overseas, if it's there at all, and it's not anywhere near to the extent of how it is in Russia. But over here in the West, billionaires are made out to have earned it, in quotations. But think about it. It's fucking stupid. You'd have to have failed, like, first-grade math to believe that. What, Jeff Bezos, who makes, like, what, $60,000 every minute or less? It's probably every second, let's be real. I forget what the exact number is, but, you know, he makes over 5 million times or some ridiculous amount what the average person does. Do you really think that it's possible for someone to work 5 million times as hard? That's fucking retarded. The illusion of a free government. Now, I'm not saying that our government is as bad as some of these governments like Russia's and China's, certainly, but, I mean, come on, we all know our government isn't really by and for the people. But you're supposed to believe it. People won't outright shoot you over here, but you go against the grain, there's stuff that'll happen to you. You can't actually advocate for real people's interests, because you have a two-party system, and both the parties are pieces of shit. If you're not one of those two parties, you're not going to go anywhere, except maybe at very local levels. Algorithms and big news is going to filter out what you say online, or show it to less people, or downplay it, because these people that own these companies have an incentive to keep you shut about it. And over here, we're somehow more productive than ever, while everything is made in China. That's just fucking stupid. How can we be more productive while producing absolutely nothing? I had a whole other video on why moving shit around isn't the basis for a healthy economy. We pretend to do something about climate change. We're taking I call it the homeopathic medicine approach to solving climate change. So you start off with the actual UN climate report that says, holy shit, we gotta reduce CO2 emissions by 50% of what they were in 2010 by 2030 if we want to have a shot of not horribly dying. And then it gets watered down in the Paris Climate Accord. We're like, we'll do some stuff about it. We'll reduce them, I don't know, like 25% over the next 20, 30 years. And then people come out and say, oh, but the Paris Climate Accord was actually very optimistic, and don't worry, we'll innovate our way out of this, and innovation and entrepreneurship will magically fix everything, like magic fucking fairy dust. Everything from poverty to climate change to loneliness is made into an individual problem. You have the illusion of hope. Oh, if you work really, really hard, maybe you can become a billionaire too. Here's an interesting way to think about it. So suppose we have 100 people, and they all believe they can become millionaires if they work hard enough on 10 tasks. But what they don't tell you is one of those tasks is luck-based, and it's basically the only one that actually matters. Now, it's not saying it's technically impossible, and that they didn't have to put forward any amount of work, but it's largely luck-based. That's not saying you can't improve yourself with hard work, but let's be fucking real. You know the numbers. You know how unlikely it is. So like that one task could just be like, oh, score 3 sevens on a slot machine, and that determines like 80 or 90% or more of your chance of actually becoming rich. That's about where we're at. But after it's all said and done, who's going to actually believe that it was hard work that got them there? The ones who made it. Even though it was mostly luck, they'll believe, oh, it's because I worked really, really hard that I got here. And then, because they're saying it and they're in power, that's what's going to be the popular narrative. And they're going to want to make sure the other people who didn't win it believe it too. So I have nicknames for these two different lying styles. So over here in the West, we have what I would call the con man style of lying, where the goal was to get you to buy their bullshit, to get you to believe it. Oh, let me tell you about the latest and greatest innovation in snake oil technology. I tell you, this snake oil will kill all your problems. I tell you, this is amazing. My entire family uses it. It cured the depression. They started making tons of money. My kids got smarter. It's the greatest. It's the best. In fact, no snake oil's better than mine. But over in Russia, we see a different type of lying. Because if you look at this, the lies that the ruling class over there say and do and the way that they're corrupt is just more blatantly obvious and out in the open than over here. This is more of the mafia man type of lying, where the point isn't that you believe the lie. The point is that it's a projection of power and go fuck yourself. Yeah, sometimes people fall down the stairs. You wouldn't want to fall down the stairs. You better pay your protection money. But in a way, people end up liking the honest asshole more than the douchebag con man. I call this type of lying honest dishonesty. It probably already has some fancy academic name, but whatever, that's what I'm going to call it. So in a way, the honest dishonesty, as I've named it, is more truthful because everybody can see how bad it is. Everybody can see how corrupt the government is. Everybody can see how corrupt the military is. Everybody can see that the economic outlook is bleak, life sucks, and life's going to continue sucking. And I think this is what people really like about Russia and hate about America and the West. It's not so much that they hate the West, it's that they hate how fake things are in the West versus the East, where at least it's honestly bad, instead of dishonestly pretty bad still, and actively getting worse. And even worse in the West, because of this hyper-individualism, because of this making all these horrible problems like poverty, loneliness, climate change out into individual problems, is that when you're depressed, you're not allowed to show it. This type of lying style, this con man lying style, like the high-spirited energy of the con man who's super happy about his product and really wants you to buy it. This breeds in our culture this cult of positivity. We see it with how innovation and entrepreneurship will magically fix everything. We see it with the economy's still growing slowly, but it's growing. You just need to embrace the service economy. And other fucking horse shit like that. So this makes it so that when you're depressed, you can't show it. And if you do show it, they'll throw, just go to therapy. Like it's magic fucking fairy dust that fixes everything. Just like snake oil. It couldn't possibly be that you're depressed because there's actually horrible things happening. It couldn't be that you're depressed because we're actually gonna fucking die of climate change. Because you're a fucking lonely bastard because you can't pay fucking rent. It couldn't be any of those things, no. It just must be a chemical imbalance in your brain, or you just need to talk to somebody. That'll be like $100 a session or whatever, by the way. Go fuck yourself. Maybe it's just you're not having such a good outlook. You just need to have a more positive mindset. This makes it so that people who actually are horribly lonely, depressed, and have real horrible issues in their lives, this makes it so that they like the place where you can actually honestly be unhappy about it. Where nobody pretends that things are okay. At least that's what the people get from images and looking at Russia and other former Soviet bloc states. Because over here, if someone asks, how's your day, you can't, for the most part, you can't say horrible. Because then you'll get some fake, I'm sorry to hear that. And then some probably throw you into some fucking bullshit about, you just need to go to therapy. People actually romanticize the Russian stereotype of living in a shitty apartment and drinking vodka. Just sitting there in a shitty apartment, drinking vodka with a few equally depressed, miserable friends, listening to Russian doomer music or playing guitar or something. Part of why people romanticize this over here, I don't know if romanticize is the right word, but that's the word I'm going to use, is because pretending to be happy just is more draining. Now, not only are you unhappy, you have to actively put on a mask and pretend that everything's fine along with everybody else so you can get through your day. And that bit that I did about the snake oil, that just reminded me. I think that's why even some of the people who didn't really support Trump found him, amusing and almost refreshing. And also why you see at least some overlap between people who support Russia, these weird types, these Tankies, and the MAGA people. It's almost like Trump's version of the snake oil salesman, the con man, is a version that's dumbed down or simplified so much that it's as blatantly obvious as the mafia man of a lie. Well, I hope that's given you some food for thought. I mean, at the end of the day, none of this is meant to be any support of Russia. It's just a sort of psychological dive into why some people over here support it that they probably don't even realize themselves. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if the people who blew up your family are honest or not about it. Your family's still equally dead. Well, that's all. You're listening to WFUK LP, the only radio that